At Circuit World, we offer a wide selection of major appliances, name brands like Whirlpool, LG, Frigidaire, and more. Looking for furniture? Come by and browse our showroom or check out the Endless Aisle, a touchscreen kiosk with thousands of options. Need electronics, gaming computers, laptops, desktops, tablets? We have it all. OLED or QLED, 4K or high def? We have the selection to get you the TV of your dreams. And don't forget, at Circuit World, your credit is always good. So ask about our convenient payment options and 120 days, same as cash. Come see us today at one of our 5 area locations. In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Welcome in, everybody. Jake West, Director, Team F1 Sports here, joined by Caleb Tallman. We are in week 2 of our show, week 1. It's our week 1 show for West North Carolina and the Smoky Mountain Conference. As always, I'm joined by Caleb Tallman. Caleb, how are you?
Doing great. Just really looking forward to some real football this week. I know you had a little bit more excitement last week with your Bulldogs having a great scrimmage. I'm looking forward to watching Hayesville broadcasting that game this week with what should be a really good week 1 matchup for them.
Yeah, there's a lot of good week 1 matchups all around the Smoky Mountain Conference and Western North Carolina as a whole. But before we get into that, Caleb, if you will roll that ticker across the bottom of the screen, we're gonna talk about our Massey ratings is something we're gonna add into our show each week. Massey ratings is like it's a formula that they used to use in the BCS to determine where the rankings and who was going to win what game. So they've adopted it, adapted it to where it would fit into high school football, and it would do some of those games. So as you see, Inca at Hayesville, Inca minus 5.5. That means they're favored by 5.5 points according to this formula. That's probably something Caleb disagrees with, but I think it's pretty close all around. I think that Franklin at Murphy, it's got Franklin favored by 0.5 point, and I think everybody thinks that game's going to be close this year. So I don't know. It's just something fun we thought we were going to add into our show and just kind of get people talking. Let's go back in time to last week. Caleb, how did your Yellow Jackets look in their scrimmage against Fannin County?
You know, they looked better than what the score would indicate. You know, they lost by 4 or 5 scores, whatever it was. But I think one of the big things is when you see a North Carolina school scrimmage a Georgia school in week 2 of scrimmages. See, North Carolina only gets 1 scrimmage. You know this, Jake, but fans might not. Georgia gets 2 scrimmages. And so having talked to our Fannin guy, Tim Tao, he said, you know, Fannin County had a lot of the same mental errors that Hayesville had in the Fannin-Hayesville scrimmage that Fannin had in the Fannin-Gilmer scrimmage. You know, just misalignment stuff. You know, your outside wide receiver covering up the tight end, you know, holding, false start, some personal foul stuff. It was nothing egregious, nothing like, oh, wow, I'm really worried that Hazel's going to struggle this year. But, you know, Fannin came into that scrimmage having already had 1 scrimmage under their belt, and they looked a lot cleaner in the first half than the Yellow Jackets did. And then in the second half, the Yellow Jackets looked a lot cleaner and fixed some of that stuff at halftime, played a little bit better. I know people think I'm a homer. I was a little frustrated with some of the reffing stuff that happened over there. I've never been to a scrimmage in Georgia. I know at one of our North Carolina scrimmages, Jake, like the refs are there at a scrimmage to help players out. I mean, there was a time where I think it was on Hazel's second drive. Hazel had a really young wide receiver out there getting his first varsity action, and you have to leave your tight end uncovered. You can't cover him up. What I mean by that is an outside wide receiver, if they have a tight end inside of them, can't be on the line of scrimmage. He has to be off the line of scrimmage. And I saw it. You know, the outside wide receiver made his motion to the ref and said, am I good? The ref said yes. McTaggart goes out, catches a 25-yard pass. and all of a sudden you look behind you and there's a flag in the background, and and it's because the wide receiver covered up the tight end after he asked. I know if that was a North Carolina scrimmage, you'd have seen the referee say, "Hey, kid, get off the line," or "This is why that happened." So it's frustrating stuff with that. But, in my opinion, I think Murphy or Fannin will be the best team Hayesville plays all year. I think if Hayesville was to play Fannin this week in a real game style, I think you might see, a 35-14 game, not a as bad score as it was. But I think there's a lot of positives Hayesville can take away. Number one positive that obviously all the fans want to know, you can't cover McTaggart. Not even Fannin can. I mean, even in a lopsided game, except for a couple of plays that were called back, not because of anything crazy, just because of those alignment issues, McTaggart probably would have had, 7-8 receptions for 130 yards and a touchdown. So I think you're going to see a lot of stat lines like that for him this year. And then the big thing was the young quarterback for Hazel, Logan Caldwell, played really well. He did take a couple of sacks instead of throwing interceptions, which we saw him force the ball a lot last year. If he can take care of the ball and be a game manager and then, at times be a game breaker, that's going to bode well for Hazel. Turnover margin is huge. We called a game last year, Jake, that Hazel-Franklin game, when honestly Hazel was right there with Franklin other than the turnovers. And so if Caldwell's improved in that area this year, it's going to be huge for Hayesville. I know you had the Murphy game. Y'all scrimmaged Irwin at Murphy. Tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah, I will. But before, I just want one more quick thing about Hayesville. I know they graduated their running back, Blake McClure, who's taken over the role on the ground running the football.
Well, you don't have to go far down the family tree. We're going from Blake McClure to Taylor McClure. And then you're also going to have the bigger power back, Kyle Lunsford, in there, who was Blake McClure's backup last year until Taylor McClure came on the scene late. They didn't get a ton going on the ground, but I would expect this week both those – it's going to be a duo between those two. Carries are going to be split between them until one gets hot. There might be weeks where Lunsford gets a few more carries. Might be weeks where Taylor McClure gets a few more carries. But I think they're in good shape with that duo in the backfield. And I also think you're going to see something this year. Hazel's going to pass the ball more than they did last year. And I also think you're going to see the running backs used a little bit more in the pass game than we have in the past.
Yeah, I think there's a helicopter about to land literally right beside me. But yeah, like you said, Fannon's one of the top teams in the area, probably one of the best teams Hayesville will see all year. Moving on to the Murphy and Irwin scrimmage, there was no Kellen Rumpfelt in this scrimmage at all. He was on the sideline in street clothes. He did not touch the field at all. So that means that we got to see Cole Laney toss the ball around and be the signal caller for the Bulldogs, and he did a really good job. Cole really settled in early. I think they did the scrimmage a little bit weird, but they did it where each team got 10 offensive plays and then they switched. But Cole, as you can see in the video, the highlight video that we are gonna play, Cole was really early on delivering some good balls. He I think within the first 20 plays, first 10 plays he was out there. He threw 2 touchdown passes on 2 deep balls. One he hit Juwan Allen, and Allen juked a man out of his shoes and got in the end zone for a touchdown. So I think that's another big takeaway. Not just Cole Laney, but Juwan Allen kind of filling in for Cole Laney and helping them get some depth at the wide receiver spot. Juwan looked like a really, really good wide receiver, and Juwan also looked like a really, really good running back in the backfield. So Juwan Allen's going to be a huge this year for the Bulldogs in all facets of the game. And also there were some younger guys that really stepped up. Hunter Stalkup, he's going to be playing a little bit of running back and help them add depth in the backfield. And he's also going to be playing linebacker. I'd say running back and linebacker are the two shallowest positions for the Bulldogs up to this point. But Hunter Stalkup is really going to give them some depth at those positions. And also Hunter Laney, he had a pick in the secondary. He's going to help opposite Juwan Allen and Peyton McCracken. He's going to help them in the defensive backfield. So there was just a lot of good things that we saw out of Murphy, a lot of good things to take away. And I'm really excited to see them play in live action this Friday at Franklin. I think Franklin's improved a lot, and Murphy is a lot better than people thought they were going to be if Kellen's not playing quarterback.
Yeah, man, it sounds like Murphy's getting some things figured out. For those that watched the Joseph Watson interview earlier this week on the Team FYN Sports Twitter, Facebook, and on FYN TV, they're not planning on changing a whole lot. Their offense is going to be very similar. I mean, I do think Watson, being a younger guy, he's going to allow his quarterbacks to throw just a little bit more. Some of that's out of necessity, too. It's not that Gentry never had quarterbacks that he let air it out. But, yeah, I mean, it sounds like Murphy's picking up right where they left off, Jake.
Yeah, they are. I mean, the biggest question mark was obviously if Kellen Rumpelt was going to be healthy, and obviously he wasn't last week, and who knows if he will be in the coming weeks. But Cole Laney really stepped up and really impressed a lot of people. And if he can do that in live game action on Friday against Franklin, it's gonna be a really good season for the Bulldogs, no matter who's behind center.
Well, yeah, before we go and talk about some of the other scrimmages last week, why don't we show that highlight video real quick? What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, we can play it.
I tell you what, though, Jake, as we're watching this highlight video, it's pretty cool to see Cole Laney and then you got Ty Laney. They're twin brothers. I mean, how cool is it going to be handing the ball off to your brother in the backfield throughout the season?
Yeah, there's a lot of Laneys on that football team, brothers, cousins. That's kind of one of the bright spots for small town football. Everybody gets to play with everybody. But you mentioned Ty Laney. He looks like a beast on both sides of the ball. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with at the linebacker position and running the football. He's going to be their clear-cut running back one. Also, somebody we didn't mention was Chandler Wood. Chandler Wood set out last year, did not play, but he's playing this year in the backfield for the Bulldogs, and he's gonna he's beefed up a lot, and everybody knows he's really quick. So if he's able to keep his head and stay in it, he's going to be a big producer for the Bulldogs going forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
and Cole looks a lot better because, I'll be honest, he came in and managed to be a game manager and not lose the game, but Cole didn't impress me in the state championship game with his ability to throw and really play the quarterback spot. He looks like a different kid from that game to this game.
Yeah, he's improved a lot this offseason, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Kellen Rumfeld's kind of coaching him and taking him under his wing and helping him become the quarterback that we all know he can be. Moving on to the Cherokee Franklin Andrews scrimmage that they had, I think that there was a lot of people had a lot of good things to say about the Cherokee Braves in that scrimmage. And Caleb, you know as well as anybody that if Don Bradley can get things going, then Cherokee's going to be hard to beat. It's going to be hard for anybody to beat Cherokee. If they can kind of take a step back and get back into what they were a few years ago, Cherokee is really going to compete for that third spot in conference and maybe even second or third spot in conference this year.
Yeah, I mean, to use it in a basketball analogy, Don Bradley is one of those kids that he can get red hot as a shooter. Well, Don Bradley can get red hot as a thrower. When you think in basketball, you get those kids that hit 6, 7 threes in a row, and you just can't leave them open. That's how Bradley is playing the quarterback spot. On any given night, it happened against Hayesville. Bradley will get hot, and it doesn't matter what his protection is in front of him. It doesn't matter the rushers who are coming at him. I mean, he'll just start dropping dimes. At his best, he's probably the best quarterback in this conference when he's hot. Now, the consistency hasn't always been there for him. I'm not coming out and making some outrageous statement saying, oh, he's better than Kellen Rumfeld. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying when he gets going, though, early in a game, he's really hard to stop. and he could lead to some upsets. Jamboree style over at Franklin last week. I think it was at Franklin. Kind of hard to judge, but from what I heard, Cherokee beat Franklin in their portion. Now, that's not a full game. Obviously, in a scrimmage jamboree style, lots of kids are getting in and out of the game. And so not a true indication of what a 4-quarter score would be. But just to say that Cherokee beat Franklin in their section, that's huge. It shows a lot of what Cherokee could be this year. I think for them, though, Jake, is going to be what can they do on defense? We know they got an offense that can put up a 40 spot on you, but do they have a defense that can get enough stops to where their offense can win games for
them? Yeah, that's true. And I think the same rings true to Franklin. They were there in that same scrimmage. We know Franklin can score, and we know Chris McGuire is good, and he's taken a big jump from last year to this year. But can their defense hold up and stop teams from scoring 35 points on them each week? Andrews was also in that Cherokee Franklin jamboree. Andrews' biggest thing, and we talked about it last week, is going to be depth. And they got their quarterback, Donovan Bateman, was banged up in that one with a sprained ankle. I'm not sure how bad it was. I don't know if he's going to be playing this week against Hickory or not. But if Andrews can't keep the kids they have healthy, it's going to be a long season for the Wildcats.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, Andrews already pulled up multiple freshmen. And so, they're similar to other teams. Hazel has low numbers too. They're in the low 20s. 21, 22 kids will probably dress out on Friday, but they only have one freshman on varsity. So in a worst case scenario, Hazel's got another 10 or 15 freshmen they can pull up off of a rather large JV team for them, actually. But I wonder for Andrews, if they get into 3 or 4 injuries, how many freshmen do they have left on JV that they could pull up if necessary? I hate to be talking about those things in week 1, but that's just the reality that they're facing right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people thought they were going to have a strong year this year with all those kids staying together, but unfortunately they're just not as deep as we expected them to be. I mean, I know the JV team that they had a few years ago, that team hasn't really all stayed together, and they're not all there. So it's disappointing for sure for Wildcats fans. It's disappointing for the Smoky Mountain Conference. I know last year, I mean, it was awesome to see Andrews be as good as they were. And it's gonna stink to see them take a step back this year if they do. But hopefully they can get started off on the right foot against Hickory this next week. I think that's all the scrimmages that we had last week. Robbinsville had to cancel their scrimmage due to some complications. Not sure what the problem was there. But Caleb, let's take a quick break. This is Jake West and Caleb Tallman, Friday Night Pressbox, Western North Carolina show. Presented by Team FYN Sports. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back.
At Circuit World, we offer a wide selection of major appliances, name brands like Whirlpool, LG, Frigidaire, and more. Looking for furniture? Come by and browse our showroom or check out the endless aisle, a touchscreen kiosk with thousands of options. Need electronics, gaming computers, laptops, desktops, tablets? We have it all. OLED or QLED, 4K or high def. We have the selection to get you the TV of your dreams. And don't forget, at Circuit World, your credit is always good. So ask about our convenient payment options and 120 days, same as cash. Come see us today at one of our 5 area locations. In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Welcome back in. Jake West with Caleb Tallman, Friday Night Pressbox, Western North Carolina, presented by Team FYN Sports. In this segment, we're going to talk about some of the Week 1 games. Hayesville versus Inca, Cherokee at Smoky Mountain, North Buncombe at Swain. Let's talk about North Buncombe and Swain. Swain, a team we didn't talk about in our scrimmage segment. earlier. Swain playing North Buncombe, a big 3A school. What do you expect to see in this matchup, Caleb?
This one's going to be really interesting to me. I'll be honest, Jake. I don't know what we expect to see. I've heard from last year, numbers are up at Swain. Last year, they had one of their smallest teams, probably in a couple decades, Jake. And now their numbers are back up. They've got their head coach back at the helm now, in Neil Blankenship. And part of the thing is going to be, their numbers are back up, but how much is their talent back up? One of the things we've talked about for years in this area, I won't shy away from talking about it. Some people think it's like faux pas, but, Cherokee players have gone back and forth between Cherokee and Swain. And right now, Cherokee's kind of on an upswing, like when they won their state championship a few years back. Not saying the team's that talented, but they're keeping a lot of their players. And Swain's not getting as many as they had been in years past. So this is going to be a huge test game for them, because if Swain comes back out and, they put a pounding on North Bumpkin or even beat North Bumpkin by a touchdown or two, you're going to say, wow, maybe this Swain team's ready to jump back from, a sixth place finish, which is unheard of in their county, back into the big three. Or, if they get roughed up by North Bumpkin, maybe we know Swain's still a year or two out from getting back to where we're used to seeing them. North Bumpkin did lose a lot, but they're a bigger school. They're a 3A school. They're a proud program. I do know they did lose their head coach like a week before the season. So there's some interesting things going on at North Buncombe as well as at Swain. And so it'll be really intriguing to see. I think both of those teams have a lot of question marks that are yet to be answered. Not saying that those question marks can't be filled with some really good young athletes, but they don't have a whole lot of sure things returning. But you might know a little bit more about Swain. I know they got a couple of players coming back that sniffed our preseason all-conference.
Yeah, Swain actually does have some good returners, and the biggest thing is that they do have Neil Blankenship back coaching them. This one against North Buncombe is a 3A school, and they did go 4-3 last year. But as you mentioned, they lost a lot. They lost their starting quarterback, lost their leading rusher, lost their leading wide receiver, their leading tackler. On defense, it seems like they lost pretty much everyone to graduation. And then on the flip side of that, Swain returns probably their best player in Carson Taylor at the linebacker position and at running back. And they also return a guy that took some snaps for him at quarterback last year. And they've got some pretty good offensive linemen returning too. So I think Swain definitely has a chance in this one, and I think they're gonna win this one against North Buncombe. I just think Swain's gonna make a 180 turnaround from last year. They're not a team. Swain is the Maroon Devils. That's not a program that you can keep down for very long, no matter what. They just somehow churn out kids, churn out good athletes, and they have really good coaching. So I think it's gonna be a close battle, but I think Swain's gonna come away with this one. And something else I want to mention, we're doing a Western North Carolina pick'em this year, and we're going to give you guys on each show who the fans pick, and then who Caleb and I pick to win each of these Smoky Mountain Conference games. So the fans in this one, 55% of the fans pick North Buncombe, 44% pick Swain, and I just think that's because of how bad of a year Swain had last year. The fans just don't expect that big of a turnaround. And also, I think that has to do with how big of a school North Buncombe is. But that is a close margin, 55% to 44%. Fans, if you guys want to participate in our Western North Carolina Pick'em, please do. We're giving out prizes at the end of the year to whoever gets the most correct picks each week. We're giving out prizes, gift cards, gift certificates, free food. So please participate in that. It's free to enter. The link's on our Facebook, and it's in our Instagram bio, and it's on Twitter. So please feel free to participate. It's fun, and you can rub it in our face when you pick. When your picks are way better than mine and Caleb's both put together. But yeah, I'm going to go with Swain in this one. Caleb, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I for the sake of the pick'em contest, I picked North Buncombe. When two schools look fairly evenly matched, and they both have a lot of question marks as far as skill position players and stuff go. I kind of just sided with the bigger school here, but I'm not. That's one of my ones I didn't feel real strongly about.
Yeah, Massey Ratings has North Buncombe as a 5.5-point favorite, so that's within a touchdown margin, and I think that's how the game's going to play out. I just think Swain's going to have a little more heart, and they're going to really want to fight so that they don't end up in the same position they were in last year.
Absolutely.
Moving on, let's talk about the next game, Cherokee at Smoky Mountain. Smoky Mountain was 2-5 last year, losses to Mitchell and Franklin. But their roster does show over 40 kids this year, so they're going to have way more depth than Cherokee. Caleb, is there any thoughts you have heading into this one?
Especially after hearing that Cherokee beat Cherokee beat Franklin in their portion of the Jamboree last week, I would think that Smoky Mountain and Franklin are two schools that would be fairly close with each other. So, and this is my chance to take a knock at the Massey ratings. Just for this week, because it's really hard in North Carolina or high school football in general, is these Massey ratings don't have a ton of data yet. It's all data driven. And so next week, when every single team's played a game, and then really when you get 2 or 3 weeks down the road, I would expect these Massey ratings to be really, really, really accurate. Honestly, they say, the house never loses, right? Well, they just don't have enough data, especially for high school football yet. And so to see, what was that, a 19.5-point spread, I just think that is a little too great. And I think that Cherokee is really going to give them a tough game. I think Cherokee's got a really good chance to win this one. Like I said, if Don Bradley gets going early, it could be a long night for Smoky Mountain. But based on knowing these two teams, it might be a fun football game to watch. I think both of these teams are going to light up the scoreboard. There might not be a ton of defense in this game if weather's good.
Yeah, well, the fans are definitely on the side of Massey ratings. Fans have picked Smoky Mountain High School by over 75%. So, and I think that's going to be my pick too. I'm going to go with Smoky Mountain over Cherokee just because of the depth that Smoky Mountain's going to have and the players that they're going to be able to roll out there. Their ones might not be as good as Cherokee's ones, but their twos are definitely going to be better and more fresh than Cherokee's ones that are still out there on the football field. So I'm going to go with Cherokee over Smoky Mountain in this one. Caleb, what's your pick?
I had Smoky Mountain, but I think it's going to be a really close game.
Moving on, Andrews versus Hickory. This Hickory team that Andrews is playing, Hickory Hawks, they're a Christian private homeschool team. And I think they went 6-3 last year, I believe, the Hickory Hawks did. I think heading into the season, after the season that Andrews had last year, Andrews was thinking this was going to be a cakewalk. But at this point, not knowing if Bateman's going to play and knowing how thin they are, I think this game's going to be a lot closer than people once thought. What are your thoughts with the Wildcats and the Hawks playing on Friday night in Andrews?
Yeah, I think if Bateman's hurt, it's going to be tough. And one thing about these homeschool teams is, Jake, and you know this as well as I do, you never know. I mean, literally, this homeschool team could have brought 3 or 4 kids from the Hickory high school team that got mad at their head coach. I'm not saying that's happened. Like I have no inside information, but that stuff does happen. I remember one week 2 years ago, Hayesville played a Atlanta Christian school, and they had a player show up that started at quarterback that hadn't been on their film or on their roster from any of the previous weeks, and the kid looked like a young Michael Vick out there, and Hayesville barely won that game when they thought they were going to walk in for a cakewalk game. So you never know what to expect from a team like the Hickory Hawks. Like last year they go 6-3, but playing a mostly independent schedule. 2 years ago, what were they, like 2-7, 2-8? So who really knows? But I just think with Bateman banged up, with the depth as low as Andrews has right now, I picked the upset. I could be dead wrong, but I picked Hickory to win this one, Jake.
Yeah, you're not alone. 32% of the fans picked Hickory to pull off the upset. So there's still a lot of, 67% of the fans picked Andrews. So there's still a lot of faith in the Wildcats in this one, and I'm going to go with Andrews in this one too. But it'd be detrimental to their season if they weren't able to pull off a win against Hickory in this one. They would just kind of I mean, last year would be one step forward, and if they lose to Hickory this year, it's 2 steps back. It's like they haven't made any progress. So they've got to come out and get a win in this one. And I think their head coach, James Phillips, knows that this is a big game and one that they definitely need to win.
Yeah, absolutely. If they don't win this one, especially when your numbers are already low as it is, it's going to be hard to convince your kids to come back out week after week and try to get better.
Up next, we have Robbinsville versus Asheville. Robbinsville, the biggest thing that concerns me about picking Robbinsville to pull off the upset against Asheville in this one is the fact that they did not have a scrimmage last week. That's really going to I think that's really going to hurt them, and because there was already so many question marks surrounding this team heading into this year, and then they haven't even been able to scrimmage. That's just, it doesn't give me a lot of faith in Robbinsville. But they're playing an Asheville team that was 5-3 last year in 3A. Their starting quarterback Khalil Connolly returns, along with the leading wide receiver, leading tackler Michael Ward returns on defense. Honestly, I really want to pick Robbinsville here, but with all that Asheville has returning and with Robbinsville not having a scrimmage, it makes that pick hard. The fans picked Asheville 63% to 36%, and I think a lot of that just has to do with all the unknowns surrounding Robbinsville.
Yeah, and I was part of that 63% that picked Asheville. And like you said, I'm not going to beat a dead horse here, but like when I watched Hayesville last week struggle in the first half in their first scrimmage, just with execution stuff, small flags, nothing crazy, just small execution. I don't know that a young quarterback, well, he's a senior, but young in his playing experience, Jason Gross is going to be capable of leading Robbinsville in a come-behind scenario. Scrimmage would have been huge for his experience and for the team's experience as they're putting in a lot of new roles. Now, don't get me wrong. I will not be stunned to all of a sudden watch Robbinsville pull the upset because that's what B. Walsh does. But for the sake of my pick, I went with Asheville. I think they have too much. And Robbinsville has not had the opportunity to prepare. We don't know what the issues were last week, why they didn't scrimmage, but if some of those issues float into this week, it can make it even tougher.
Yeah, my head says Asheville, but my heart says Robbinsville, so I'm going to go with Robbinsville. I just think with Cutler Adams and Cage Williams and everything that they're going to bring in the backfield, I know Asheville's still Western North Carolina, but you don't get that kind of football that we play around here out in the Asheville area. I think Cage and Cutler running it down their throats is going to be hard for those Asheville kids to handle. I do think it's going to be close, but I think Robbinsville is going to be able to pull it out. Maybe if it's just off coaching alone, I think D and Lucas Ford are going to put them in good situations, and if Robbinsville just executes, I think they're going to be able to win. And I do know that this game is going to be a really good meter to judge how good Robbinsville is going to be this year, and if they're going to be as bad as people think they're going to be, or if they're going to be just right back on top like they have been for the past few years. And people think they're going to be in a down year this year, but that year, the down in Robbinsville is just going to last 1 year if it does happen this year. It's only going to be 1 year that they're going to be down. Next year, they're going to be right back up.
Well, and I know there's a lot of fans that wish their down year was a predicted second place. Isn't there, Jake?
Yeah, Robbinsville, no matter what, is a playoff team this year, and this is it's a down year for them. So who knows what can happen? I'm picking Robbinsville in the upset over 3A Asheville. Moving on, Hayesville versus Inca. That's going to be live on FYNTV.com. The fans have picked Inca 55% over Hayesville 44%. Caleb, I'm sure you were not one of the 55% that picked Inca on our Western North Carolina pick'em.
I'll let fans take their guess. I'm not going to share my pick right now, Jake. My pick is recorded. You have all the picks saved in our Google form, so people can find out whether I was right or wrong next week. But since I am calling the game as the lead broadcaster, I'm not going to share my pick live on the show tonight. But I'm really excited. I'll be there with my good friend, former Hayesville quarterback, Brack Martin is going to be on the call with me. We're really excited that we're in Hayesville for every home game this season. I'll give fans just a quick little preview, and then we'll get to your pick for the game. Inca, Jake, reminds me of a team that looks a lot like Hayesville did at the beginning of the season last year. A lot of promise, some good athletes, but they kind of, from the film I saw, they're still figuring things out. I believe they're starting a sophomore quarterback. And he kind of reminds me of Logan Caldwell at times last year, where when you watch the film, he's not taking the sack. He's chucking that thing. You know what I mean? So it's going to be an exciting game because from what they showed in their scrimmage, they threw deep. 20 times, Jake. And I'm not saying 10 yards deep. I'm saying 30 yards deep. Their second play from scrimmage in their scrimmage against Mitchell was a 75-yard touchdown pass. One-on-one, Mitchell's corner mistimed it, and Inca's kid just caught it and jogged to the end zone on one-on-one coverage. And so there's going to be a lot of deep balls thrown. Hazel's defense is going to have the opportunity to pick some passes off, and it could be as simple as, does Inca get 2 or 3 30-yard plus touchdowns, or does Hazel's defense get 2 or 3 interceptions is what could decide this game. If Hazel's defense comes to play, I do think they stand a better chance at winning because from what it looks like, Inca's defense doesn't look prepared to stop Hazel's offensive attack, in my opinion. They play a lot of off coverage. They're not really looking to challenge the line of scrimmage a ton, similar to what you see from other Asheville schools that play a lot more spread style offense, which is what Inca's offense is, and they're preparing their defense for a lot of those. And even though Hazel is a spread offense themselves, Taylor McClure and Kyle Lunsford are power runners. And now you got Jake McTaggart back. And as good as a pass catcher as he is, he's also 6'7", 240, pretty good inline blocker. Saw him have a couple of pancake blocks against Fannin last week. So I expect Hayesville to perform well. Really excited to be there. And like I said, I really do think, Jake, what's going to decide this game is turnover margin. I think these two teams are really close. If one team gets the turnover margin by 2 or more, I think that's the team that wins. But go ahead, share your pick with us and what you think about the game.
In my head, what I go back to in this Hayesville versus Inca is the Hayesville versus Franklin game last year, and how I think that game could have been a lot closer if Hayesville was able to get out of their own way. I think Hayesville stands a really good chance at winning this one against Inca if they are able to get out of their own way. Like you mentioned, the turnover margin, if they don't turn the ball over, then they have a really good shot at winning. But also one thing Inca has on their side is depth. I know Hayesville's not, 27 to 30 kids this year on this year's team?
Not even right now. We got a couple out with injuries. I know we have one out on quarantine, just like many teams do. So right now, I think Hazel stands to dress 21 or 22 players on Friday night.
Yeah, and that's huge when you're playing against a big school like Inca. There's no telling how many kids Inca will dress coming out, and I do think Hayesville skill players could compete with these bigger schools. It's just going to come to for me, it's a matter of depth. It would be the same way. If Andrews wasn't playing a homeschool Christian team, their depth, I wouldn't allow myself to pick them. And I don't think because of Hayesville's depth, I can pick Hayesville in this one against Inca. I think Hayesville is a team that's going to get better as the year goes on. I just think they're still young, as you said, and their depth is not there. So I'm going to go with Inca by just a score. I think it is going to be really close. But I do think Hayesville has a shot to win this one. Like you said, if their DBs are stout and Taylor McClure really comes to play and he picks a few passes off and they get a few turnovers, then Hayesville should pull off this upset. But if not, if Inca is able to sit back there and they're able to pass, I think you would agree if Inca is able to sit back there and pass, that they're going to win this football game.
I will add one thing, Jake, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to switch your pick if you want to. I have Inca's roster sitting in front of me that I got in my email this morning. Hazel is going to be dressing, like I said, 21 or 22 players. Inca's got 23 on their roster that I received this morning. So I don't know that the depth might not come into it as much as you think. Inca's a bigger school, and you'd think they had a lot more players, but they're coming into a first-year head coach, and their program is not traditionally strong. And so maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, once this new head coach gets his foothold, you'll see a lot more. But I was surprised when I got that in my email this morning that Inca's only got 23 players on their roster.
Yeah, I mean that's terrible. I think that we've seen that as a trend in our area all around with just low numbers. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but we've got to get kids. I mean, maybe it has to do with COVID and people don't want their kids to be around a bunch of other kids. Maybe that's what it is. But we've got to get these kids to be coming out and playing football. I mean, I don't. 5 years ago, that definitely wasn't a problem. Maybe it does just directly correlate back to COVID, but that's that's pretty unbelievable that as big a school as Inca is, they have 25 kids on their football team. Is that all the Smoky Mountain games we have, Smoky Mountain Conference games we have besides Murphy and Franklin?
Yeah, I didn't know. I know we got it on our master ratings on the bottom scroll. It's just the Mitchell game. I know we follow Mitchell because they're playing several of our Smoky Mountain schools this week. Mitchell's got Irwin, and Mitchell's favored by a half point. But after Irwin scrimmaged Murphy last week, I would expect Mitchell to win that one pretty big.
Yeah, how did Mitchell scrimmage? You said Mitchell scrimmaged.
Or Murphy scrimmage. Didn't Murphy scrimmage Irwin last week?
Yeah, but earlier, didn't you say Mitchell scrimmaged Inca?
Yeah.
Last week. How did that go?
Like I said, Inca hit a couple of bomb passes, but I think a lot of the first one was with starters in, but after the first bomb pass, I think they got a couple more long ones with backups in, but not to be surprised at all. Mitchell dominated. I mean, absolutely dominated the line of scrimmage when it was ones versus ones.
Yeah, that's what Mitchell does, and Mitchell's always got a good O line. That's what they're going to do against Irwin. Irwin's really down this year. Mitchell's gonna absolutely. They should absolutely obliterate Irwin. Caleb, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back with our Friday Night Pressbox Western North Carolina Game of the Week preview. Murphy at Franklin. We're gonna come back and we're gonna open up with the interview that I did with head coach of the Franklin Panthers, Josh Brooks, and we'll hear from him and what he has to say about his Panther team and what he has to say about the Smoky Mountain Conference and why he always schedules schools from our conference. For Caleb Thomas, Jake West, take a quick break. We'll be back. Friday Night Pressbox, Western North Carolina, presented by Team FYN Sports.
World, we offer a wide selection of major appliances, name brands like Whirlpool, LG, Frigidaire, and more. Looking for furniture? Come by and browse our showroom or check out the endless aisle, a touchscreen kiosk with thousands of options. Need electronics, gaming computers, laptops, desktops, tablets? We have it all. OLED or QLED, 4K or high def. We have the selection to get you the TV of your dreams. And don't forget, at Circuit World, your credit is always good. So ask about our convenient payment options and 120 days, same as cash. Come see us today at one of our 5 area locations. In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
Jake West here with Caleb Tallman, Friday Night Pressbox, presented by Team FYN Sports. Earlier this week, I sat down over Zoom with the Franklin Panthers head coach Josh Brooks, and we're going to play that interview for you and let you hear what he has to say about their upcoming matchup against Murphy Bulldogs.
Jake West, Director of Team FYN Sports, here with the head coach of the Franklin Panthers, Josh Brooks. Coach Brooks, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. You guys have Murphy this Friday, one of the many Smoky Mountain Conference schools that you either scrimmaged against or have on your regular schedule this year. Is that kind of something you guys are going to try to do? I know you've played Murphy for the past forever, it seems like, but is that something you guys like to try to do for your out of conference games, to schedule some Smoky Mountain Conference teams and kind of get some good competition when you're not playing in conference play?
Well, obviously, geographically, it only makes sense that we play these guys. From a classification standpoint and an enrollment standpoint, we're a little bit bigger. But you also don't see a lot of schools calling the Smoky Mountain Conference schools to schedule games, and I don't care where those teams are coming from, Buncombe County, Henderson County, etc., Swain and Robbinsville and Murphy and Cherokee, you name it. They're just not going to get a whole lot of phone calls from places. Our competition is great. We've won some, we've lost some against Smoky Mountain Conference schools. We've been playing Murphy, I know, for 25 straight years because I've been here for that long. We've been playing Swain every year since 2006. And before that, we scrimmaged them. We've scrimmaged Cherokee. We've scrimmaged and played Hayesville. We played Robbinsville 8 times over this period. I think we were 4-4 against Robbinsville. We scrimmaged Andrews. So we've seen our fair share of Smoky Mountain Conference teams, and honestly, they do a great job of getting us ready for our conference schedule. And we appreciate the competition, the friendships, and the chance to play the game of football against each other.
Yeah, you mentioned you've been there 25 years. What's it been like? Kind of you've seen the program through all its ups and downs, and seems like coming back through the valley, coming back up, trying to get back to that peak again right now. So what's it kind of mean for you as a coach to have been there through all?
Well, when I first got here as a young teacher, young coach, the first year I was here, we were 1-9, and obviously Coach Goldsmith took over and made an immediate impact on attitude and our toughness and expectation. And, and I think the biggest thing that speaks to me or that I appreciate the most is that we've had a lot of consistency. We've had very quality teams, very competitive teams. We have had a couple of losing seasons, but that's going to happen when you don't recruit. That's going to happen in schools and areas where we live. And so I'm proud of our consistency and level of play over 2 decades and a half. And we definitely had a bump in the road there a couple of years ago. We had a rebound last year and got back on the winning side of a winning season and barely missed the playoffs. And so I'm proud of the process that we're going through and the fact that we didn't stay down and we fought back. And honestly, I probably learned as much as a coach in a 1-win season as I ever could in an undefeated season. And so we've been on both spectrums. We've had a number of undefeated seasons here in the regular season, and we've had a 1-win season. And I appreciate all of them, and they're all learning experiences. At the end of the day, most people couldn't tell you what my record was. I can't even tell you what my record is as a coach because it just really doesn't matter. The impacts that we have a chance to make on these kids' lives, winning or losing, is what means the most. And relationships are what keeps coaches in the game, and relationships are what brings kids to it, and the chance to make a difference and use the game of football for something very positive.
Yeah, you said it better than anybody could. I mean, the Franklin Panthers have been the model of consistency for the past 20 years. I mean, you always know when you go in a game against Franklin that it's going to be a dogfight no matter what year it is. So talk a little bit about what you expect this Friday night against Murphy. I know it wasn't as close of a game as you'd like for it to have been last year, and you didn't get the outcome you wanted. But this is you have a completely different team, maybe not personnel wise, but mentality wise and skill wise. I would say this year than you did last year, because Coach, I don't know what you did this offseason, but it looks like a completely different group of Panthers out there on the football field.
Well, first about Murphy, Murphy seems like that it's just a Groundhog Day, man. They roll out big linemen, good backs, good quarterbacks, and aggressive defense year after year after year, and that speaks volumes for that school, community, staff, and those kids. There's a high expectation at Murphy to win, and not just win, but win big, and that they're going to do that again. I'm super impressed with the film that I saw with them against Irwin in their preseason scrimmage. They look very good again, a well-oiled machine on offense and a super aggressive defense. So for us, it's about matching that intensity, matching those expectations, matching their toughness, and we have to be able to do that if we're going to have a chance. Again, we know exactly what to expect. Last year, I felt like we played our tails off in the first half and had a heck of a half against Murphy, but the better team won. The team that had more depth, had more experience, they won last year, and I wasn't surprised to see Murphy run the table, go to the state championship, and win it. That was no surprise. We'll have our hands full on Friday night against Murphy. That's exactly what we're expecting. It's going to be a battle, but that's exactly what we need early in the season to help us get ready for conference play and a tough, long season. And Murphy helps us get ready every single year.
All right, Coach. That's all I've got for you. I told you I wouldn't keep you long. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being with us. We look forward to following you guys all year. Wish you the best of luck. I think you guys are going to turn some heads this year.
Well, I appreciate that, Jake, and thanks for having me on the show. And we appreciate what y'all do for high school football and other sports in this area. And we hope to see you soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Man, what a guy, Jake. Great interview with him. So big shout out. I know you thanked him, but I love Coach Brooks. I got to deal with him a little bit in the spring last year, and then throughout the summer as we set up our 7-on-7. And I tell you what, there's some coaches that I'll text them. I'm sure you have this issue, Jake, and it's 2 days before you hear back. I don't think I've ever gone more than 5 minutes without getting a response from Coach Brooks. I know they don't always love the media, but he gives us great access. We really appreciate his insight, and he's a great guy. I'm sure Franklin fans got to be thrilled knowing that he's re-locked in after having resigned for a short time with some personal things going on. Some of it got sorted out, and he's back at the helm, and I expect him to be back and staying at Franklin for several more years.
Yeah, he's already been there for 25 years. 25 years of coaching is a long time. That's probably 2 lifetimes, it feels like, for him. But, yeah, it's good to see him back as a head coach for another year of the Franklin Panthers. I expect him to get the Panthers back to the powerhouse that they have been, the powerhouse that we all remember them, and this may be a good year to do that. They're definitely going to take another step forward this year as they return quarterback Chris McGuire and the team's second leading rusher from last year, Ty Hanley. Also, their 2 leading wide receivers in Grant Adams and Keegan Pollock return. So I would imagine Coach Brooks is going to open things up a little more this year. He graduated his star running back Ethan Klatt last year, but with all the weapons he's got this year through the air, why not? Why wouldn't you just try to open it up and throw it all over the place? Pollock also their leading tackler on defense last year. So Keegan Pollock and Chris McGuire are going to be the 2 names that you hear if you're a Franklin County Panthers fan a whole lot over the loudspeaker this year. what are your thoughts for this Franklin team and this Franklin versus Murphy game as a whole?
I really think this game's gonna be a lot closer than some people think. I think our Massey ratings maybe pretty spot on. They got Franklin as a half-point favorite, and that's where I say our Massey ratings aren't locked in yet to where they will be, because there's no reason that Murphy wouldn't be favored over this team. I think a lot of times they just account for a school being bigger in their preseason rankings and ratings and such. But another key player that I wanted to mention, and I picked this information up at the 7-on-7, Braden Watts was out for the whole spring season last year. A lot of people said that he would have not split time with their top back Clapp, but he would have maybe got a third of those carries or a fourth of those carries. And now he comes back from injury fully healthy, and they expect him to be the top back this year at that fullback position, which is really important in the Franklin Panther offense. And so another big piece for them. And I tell you what, Jake, Murphy better watch out. If we get the same quarterback McGuire that we saw at the Fetcher News FCA 7-on-7, oh boy, Murphy might really need to bring their A game, because McGuire looked like a whole different kid from last year when he played Franklin and Murphy, or played Hazel and Murphy early in the year, to when we saw him at that 7-on-7. And that's what I love about high school sports. These young athletes put in a lot of work in the offseason that goes unseen, and they come back, and kids that were role players, or kids that had tough years last year, come back, and all of a sudden they're superstars in their junior or senior year. That's what I love about high school sports. There's no bigger jump in athletics from a kid that goes from his freshman year of high school to his senior year of high school. Not freshman year of college. There's freshmen that come into college that are already world beaters, and there's rookies that perform at MVP levels in the NFL. But the improvement that players make from their freshman to senior year in high school is awesome to see. And I'll let you get to your pick, Jake. But I'm picking the upset. I picked in my weekly pick 'em. I think Franklin's going to come out and win this ball game. I think we know it's been confirmed now, barring a last-second revelation that Kellen Rumfelt, maybe he plays, but he's not going to play quarterback. And I think Cole Laney has made me a believer. I think he's a lot more capable than I thought he was just 2 or 3 weeks ago after seeing his preseason and his scrimmage. But he's not Kellen Rumfelt. He doesn't have that game experience under his belt quite yet. Franklin's got the more experienced quarterback in this matchup. And it's at Franklin, correct?
Yeah, it is.
So you've seen it, Jake. Maybe you were even on one or two of those Murphy teams. There has been multiple Murphy teams that have gone into Franklin, to the pit, as they call it, one of the hardest places to play in West North Carolina. Murphy teams that were better than Franklin that went in there and lost, right?
Yeah, that's a heck of a place to play. I've actually never seen a game there in person, but I think that from what I've heard, this will be my first time going to Franklin to watch a game. So it's definitely exciting, and from what I've heard, it's a different kind of atmosphere, and it is really hard for visiting teams to win when they do have to go to the pit, as they call it. So I'm really excited for it. I do think that the D-backs for Murphy are going to have their hands full. Juwan Allen, Peyton McCracken, they're going to have to really, and Hunter Laney, they're going to have to really step their game up and help their offense out. But I think no matter who is under center at quarterback, the offense this year is just going to be too much for Franklin to stop. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. Franklin's defense was going to be a question. We knew that they could score with pretty much anybody, but they may just get outscored. So that's the biggest question mark for Franklin. And the biggest sure thing for me for Murphy is going to be their offense. So I think no matter who is under center for the Bulldogs, that they score enough points to win this one. Who knows about the Kellen Rumfelt situation? Who knows when he'll be back? It went from he's not going to play football ever again to he's going to play in the scrimmage to he's not going to play till conference to he might suit up Friday night. So I don't think anybody knows. I do know that he's a really good kid, and he's going to do anything for his team to help his team win, even if that means taking a back seat and playing in a different position. But I do know that he is he is the best quarterback in the conference. So if he does come back and he is able to play quarterback, whenever he is able to come back and play quarterback, that's really going to help this team out. But for this weekend, for this Murphy at Franklin game, I've got Murphy, and so does 83% of the fans that played in our Western North Carolina pick'em. I just think Franklin, they're going to make a big leap this year. And they've got some guys returning. I just think Murphy matches up well against them. And I think Murphy defensively is a better team, and defense is going to win this ball game.
Yeah, and I know we won't talk about it too much. We already saw it happen in our North Georgia pick'em and those things over the past week that, the Gilmer Pickens game in Georgia was a huge one that got canceled because of COVID. And so far, we've not heard of any North Carolina cancellations in our area. But another thing that happens, too, is every single week, for all you know, we'll come into a game on Friday night and we're going to look over at the sideline like, where's so-and-so team starting quarterback? And they might be out with a quarantine. We don't know that these things could happen. It's really
I think Murphy will be missing a few kids due to COVID and contact tracing and quarantining. I don't know exactly who those kids are, but I think they will be missing 2 or 3 due to COVID. And like you said, there's already been a game canceled in Georgia, so that's just something we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah.
Again this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, and so when you look at that, I think that could affect any matchup. Sometimes one player makes a really big deal. It's a team game, but who knows? Best of luck to any kid that has to get in that quarantine situation or, God forbid, catches COVID. Put their health first and foremost, and we know that's what's most important. At the end of the day, it's just a game. But yeah, I think as we go throughout our season, go throughout 11 or 12 weeks of this show, Jake, this is just the start of it. Hopefully we get a full season in. I think that's what everyone wants to see. But there's going to be cancellations. There's going to be reschedules. There's going to be all kinds of things going on that could affect these matchups. And so at the end of the day, your and I picks, we could have picked every single one wrong this week for all we know. But that's the fun part. We'll find out on Friday night.
Yeah, and we just want to encourage everybody to participate in the pick'em, both the Georgia one and the North Carolina one. Like I said, you're going to win all kinds of stuff this year if you get your picks, get the most picks correct. Want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank everybody for tuning in. We will be live with the Hayesville game this week, as we are going to be with every Hayesville home game. So tune in to fyntv.com. Even if you're at another game, pull it up on your phone and check in and see, because that's going to be a close game. I think all the way down to the wire. It's probably going to be a good one. Caleb, you're going to get to call a good game on Friday. Caleb, thanks for being with me, and we'll be back next week, and we'll see just who was right and just who was wrong with these picks, and we'll announce the winner of the Week 1 pick'em. Whoever the fan was that got the most right. This week we'll announce next week on the show.
Absolutely, and thanks for having me, Jake. Real quick, before we sign off, if you're watching this, hey, like, subscribe, share this, throw some comments up there about what you want to hear in next week's show on our Facebook feed. And then the last thing, as I'm kind of one of our video production guys, if you get a great clip, tweet it to our DMs on Twitter or message it to us on Facebook. And if it's a clip that we use in our show, we'll give you credit on the show next week. We want to be as interactive as possible. So, get active with us. We're all about. Heck, maybe we'll even toss you up on the show one week if you got something real good for us.
Yeah, mommies and daddies, send us clips of your baby so we can put them in here in our highlight reel. Thanks, Caleb. Thanks for joining me. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
At Circuit World, we offer a wide selection of major appliances, name brands like Whirlpool, LG, Frigidaire, and more. Looking for furniture? Come by and browse our showroom or check out the endless aisle, a touchscreen kiosk with thousands of options. Need electronics, gaming computers, laptops, desktops, tablets? We have it all. OLED or QLED, 4K or high def. We have the selection to get you the TV of your dreams. And don't forget, at Circuit World, your credit is always good. So ask about our convenient payment options and 120 days, same as cash. Come see us today at one of our 5 area locations. In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.